I asked AI what would happen to a human living under artificial light, and the results are pretty scary. Now, I didn't want the AI tool to just use random data, so I've actually used my spectrometer and I've fed the information into the AI tool so it could give a clearer answer. I've been doing this recently with my plants. I have some variegated monstera that I grow inside. They are extremely finicky when it comes to their light environment, and with the spectrometer I've been able to tell if there's not enough red light, what will happen to the plant, and literally they can become more leggy, so they grow longer stems, and then it becomes this ugly plant because there's not enough leaves. And what I realized is I'm busy doing this experiment and seeing what happens to plants when their light environment isn't right. So why not test this with humans and see what AI thinks would happen? So I took 2 different scenarios and asked the AI tool to compare them. The first thing I did was I measured the spectrum from sunlight and what we would get if we were living outside. And then I took an artificial source, so I used a computer screen. What happens if someone lives in front of their computer all the time? At the end of this experiment, I also did something very interesting, and that is asking what would happen if we added in red light therapy. And again, I took the spectrum test from a red light therapy device, and then asked what would happen to the person sitting in front of their computer screen if they supplemented with the red light therapy. Now, AI is getting really good, so we don't just have to read the information. I also asked it to create a realistic photo of a human if they're under just artificial light, and then what happens when their light environment is better, and that is when it gets really scary. So let's jump into the test. I'm going to screen record on my phone so you can follow along. Alright chat, I have uploaded 2 images to you which are from my spectrometer. I've taken one image outside, and for reference that is the one with the wider spectrum. And then I've taken another photo, which is from my computer screen. And I want you to create 2 scenarios, so 2 different humans, one of them who lives under the sunlight spectrum, and compare that with the type of person who would live under a computer screen lighting. Perfect, so you can see the results from your spectrometer. Let's go down here. Person living under the sunlight, physical traits, clearer skin, healthy posture, energized muscles. Their body runs on strong circadian rhythms, so sleep is deep and restorative. They likely have balanced hormones, stronger bones, and less chronic fatigue. Under mental traits, we have sharper focus, creative thinking. Emotional traits, grounded, resilient. Person living under computer screen light. Now we're looking at pale skin, poor posture, sluggish energy. Their eyes may be strained, and they could struggle with disrupted sleep from blue light exposure at the wrong times. Their mitochondria don't get the red and infrared support needed for optimal repair. When it comes to mental traits, foggy concentration, frequent fatigue, short attention span. Their body clock is confused, making it harder to stay alert during the day and wind down at night. And then emotional, they're irritable, restless, sometimes anxious. And then below that, so it says, in short, the sunlight person looks vibrant, sleeps well, and feels aligned with life. The screen light person looks washed out, runs on caffeine and stress, and feels out of sync with their natural rhythm. I want to take this a step further. So chat, I want you to very briefly just tell me what it would be like to come across each of these people. So let's say I met the person living under sunlight, and then later that day I met the person who was living under a computer screen. What would my interpretation of these people be? So the person living under sunlight, when you meet them, they feel radiant and present. Their skin looks healthy, their energy feels grounded, and they give off a sense of calm confidence. You'd likely notice that they seem well rested, easy to connect with, and naturally charismatic, the kind of person you describe as vibrant or alive. The person living under screen light, meeting them feels very different. Their skin looks a bit washed out, their posture slightly slouched, and their eyes seem tired. The energy they give off is restless and distracted, like they're half there, but not fully present. You'd probably interpret them as run down, stressed, or disconnected, almost like their light is dimmer. Alright chat, I've just uploaded a spectrum test from a red light therapy device, and I want you to explain the changes that the person living under the screen light would experience, or what they would even look like after they started supplementing with one of these red light therapy devices. Alright, so we go down and there's obviously the before that we've covered already, after screen light plus red light therapy. With consistent supplementation from this device, skin and appearance starts to regain warmth and color, posture and energy. They carry themselves with more confidence and vitality, less tension in the eyes, face, and shoulders. You'd notice a kind of glow or resilience. Mood and mind, their sleep improves. And then below that, stress tolerance rises, mood stabilizes, and they appear more approachable and present. The overall impression, if you met them now, you'd interpret them as someone who looks refreshed, healthier, and energized. almost as if they've been recharged from the inside. Now this is where it's going to get scary. Chat, I want you to create a realistic picture of the person before and after they do red light therapy. So the first picture will be just someone who has been living under a computer screen, and then afterwards I want you to show me an image of what that same person would look like after they started fixing their light environment with red light therapy. Alright, so that is a very stark difference, almost doesn't look like the same person. And your light environment is just like your diet. If someone is malnourished, you can see it in that person. It's the same with my plants. If their light environment isn't right, there's a big change in how that plant will look. It's the same with humans. We need especially red and infrared light in order for our bodies to thrive. And the problem when we're living inside and staring at computer screens all the time is we're getting a drastically high amount of blue light and not enough red and infrared light. Now, I wouldn't go as far as saying that you could just live inside and do red light therapy. There are still key wavelengths that you need to get from the sun, especially in the ultraviolet spectrum. But as a modern human, we can't spend all of our time outside. So red light therapy becomes a way to supplement your light environment so it's somewhat closer to nature, and that helps your body and your physiology to thrive. If you want to learn more about what to look for in a high quality red light therapy device, I've done a video over here which you can check out to make sure that you don't waste your money on the wrong product.